Think of the person you despise more than anybody else. Think of the person who has cheated you, tricked you, and then had the gall to laugh about it. Think of someone who may have used the law to their own advantage and left you holding the short end of the stick. Perhaps, if you can think of someone like that, you will know exactly how most people looked at me in Jericho. Jericho was a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful and prosperous around. Jericho lay in the Jordan Valley and was the gateway to the lands east of the Jordan. It was known for the great palm forest and its world-famous balsam groves that perfumed the air for miles around. Her gardens were known far and wide. Many called Jericho the city of palms, and all of this combined to make Jericho one of the richest taxation centers in all of Palestine. And that was my job. In fact, I was in charge of all the tax collectors in that region. My name is Zacchaeus. You may have your own feelings for those in charge of taxes in your world, but let me tell you, it was nothing like what we put up with. You see, you don't like tax people because you don't like to pay taxes. No one does. But people who collected taxes from you are pretty fair about it. And everything is above board. In other words, you know exactly what is going on, and it was not always this way. Let me tell you about tax collectors in my day. You see, the Romans were in control. They had conquered Palestine, and we were subject to their rule. The Roman government would assign so much money to be collected from a region, and then they would hire people like me to collect it. I was the only one who knew what Rome had to be paid, and so I was free to collect as much as I could get away with. As long as I paid what was due to Rome, they didn't care how much I kept. We had all sorts of ways to collect taxes. There was the poll tax. There was the ground tax. There was the income tax. But the most lucrative of taxes was the extra taxes for use of highways, bridges, and the like. I could stop anyone on the road, inspect their bags, and assign a tax. In fact, if they couldn't pay it, I could loan them the money at a huge interest rate and collect on both ends. Any of that would make any man hated by his neighbors. But what made tax collectors outcasts was the fact that we were Jews. We were Jews who were employed by the Romans, and as such, we were considered traitors of our own people. We are employed by the enemy to cheat our own people, and because of that, no self-respecting Jew would ever have anything to do with us. We were barred from the synagogue, and as far as Jewish people were concerned, we were classed with murderers and robbers. Ask any Jew the three most hated groups of people, and they would tell you murderers, robbers, and tax collectors. I don't have to tell you, we tax collectors developed a rather thick skin pretty quickly. You know, it's amazing what money can buy. Even though we were the most despised of among our fellow Jews. And I lived in one of the nicer houses in Jericho. I wore nice clothes. I didn't have to worry about where the next meal was coming from. And it's surprising how nice so many people will be to you when they know that you have money. Oh, most of my social contacts were other tax collectors. And even though I didn't like some of them personally, well, we were all in this together. And we did have a lot in common. Besides, who needs others? Who needs friends? Who needs respect? Who am I trying to kid? I needed it. In spite of the fact that I was barred from the synagogue, I still believed in God. They could not take that away, and there was an emptiness inside of me when I could not express my faith. I'd heard of this Jesus of Nazareth. They said he was a marvelous preacher and teacher. Some said he was the Messiah. I'd heard of his miracles, and I longed to see him. Could it be that he was the Messiah, I wondered? Then I found out he was coming to Jericho. I was bound and determined that I would at least see him. I knew Jesus would never talk to me, a tax collector, but I would see him. I walked out among the crowd, and because I was shorter than most people, I couldn't see over everyone. In fact, the crowd wouldn't let me see anybody. Before I'd leave there that day, my legs would be black and blue from the kicks and the punches and supposedly accidentally brushing into me and then turning to their friends and laughing. I was used to that kind of treatment. But now Jesus was coming my way. I knew I'd never be able to get anywhere near him or even see him, so I climbed a sycamore tree. And the sycamore tree is like the oak tree that you know of, with these large branches that stretch out laterally, easy to climb. So when I climbed up into this tree, others started looking up and laughing at me, but you know what? Let them laugh. I saw that Jesus was in the crowd coming my way. In fact, he was coming directly to the tree. When Jesus was standing almost right under me, he looked up and he said, "Zacchaeus, come down. This day I'll be staying at your house." How did he know who I was? How did he know my name? And why would he want to come to my house? A tax collector. A million thoughts raced through my mind. But I jumped out of the tree, I stuttered and I stammered, and I don't know even what I said, except that I would immediately run home and get things ready. In a few hours later, I ran home, and I was hurrying. I could already hear the murmur of the crowd. "Did you hear that?" they would say. "Why would Jesus want to eat with a sinner, a tax collector at that?" They couldn't believe it, and neither could I. I don't even know why I was so excited. What would I serve? What would we talk about? What did he want? Would he condemn me? Would he lecture me, preach to me about my life? Could he be the Messiah? A million questions and no answers. And a few hours later, he would come to my door. I had servants preparing a large meal. So I greeted him, invited him in, and he took my hand in greeting and looked deep into my eyes. I knew that moment he knew all about me. I don't know what he saw, but I know in that moment, every lie that I ever told, every dollar I ever stole, every sin I ever committed flashed across my mind. It was like he could see right through me. Could he see what I was seeing in my own mind? But not a word about any of it. No condemnation. No judgment. He wanted to talk to me. He wanted to get to know me. He wanted to know about my life, about what was important to me, what I liked, what I didn't like. I asked if he was the Messiah, the one we'd waited for. He just smiled, and I knew the answer. I don't know how to describe my feelings that day. It was like he could see right through me, every dark secret I ever kept, and you would think I would have been scared, panicked, wanted to run away, but I had the calmest feeling. It was as if I were glad that he knew the truth, as if I didn't have to hide anything. He already knew it all. And suddenly, I had this overwhelming desire, and I knew I had to change. I could not stand in the presence of Jesus and continue my life as it was. I had to change. I knew my life was wrong. I knew what I did was wrong. But then money is money. And who cared how you got it? How long had I kidded myself? It was like a giant weight had been lifted from my shoulders, and he hadn't said a word about it. After supper, with the crowd still wondering what was happening, I said something that I never thought would cross my lips. I declared to Jesus that I'd give away half of all I had to the poor, and if I had defrauded anyone, and I knew I had, everyone knew I had, I would give it back fourfold. Jesus just smiled and nodded. Then he said, "Today salvation has come to this house." That night, I couldn't get enough of what Jesus had to say. The next day after he left, I set out to do exactly what I said I would. It was so much. I never knew how much giving was so much fun. People just looked and shook their heads, thought I was crazy. I left my tax table that day and never went back. Oh, I won't kid you, it wasn't easy. Years of hatred don't disappear overnight. Few thought this was real and that the old Zacchaeus would come back in a few days, and they would wait. It was years before they really believed I had changed. You can't build trust overnight. It takes years, but little by little, people came to know that it was real. Yes, I was a changed man, and I've never been happier. Did I have as much money? No, I didn't. But from that day on, I slept at night, I smiled during the day, and that knot in my stomach was gone. That day changed my life, and all because of the touch of the Master's hand.
Time I tried to make it on my own. Every time I tried to stand and start to fall. And all those lonely roads that I have traveled on, there was Jesus. When the life I built came crashing to the ground, when the friends I had were nowhere to be found, I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. There was Jesus. Searching, in the healing and the hurt, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. This man who needs amazing kind of grace, for forgiveness at a price I couldn't pay. I'm not perfect, so I thank God every day. There was Jesus. There was Jesus. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, or couldn't see it. There was Jesus on the mountain, in the valleys.
There was Jesus
In the shadows of the alleys.
There was Jesus
In the fire and in the blood.
There was Jesus
Always is and always was. No, I never walk alone. You are always there. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing gloried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there